A Spartan mother holds her newborn for the first time. Not to kiss him, to count his fingers, to check his spine, to pray his cry is loud enough. Because in 20 minutes, old men will decide if he deserves to live, if his legs are straight enough, if his skull is shaped right. One crooked foot means death. One weak cry means the cliff. This isn't mythology. This is Sparta, where they didn't build warriors. They bred them, and the factory floor was soaked in blood. 706 BC, morning assembly. Gorgo stands in the square wrists bound with hemp rope, 23 years old, unmarried, childless. The Gerousia circles her 5 old men in red cloaks, faces like dried leather. The eldest speaks without looking at her. 3 years, 4 marriage offers, all refused. Gorgo's jaw tightens. I won't. You won't what? His eyes snap to hers. Choose. You think this is about choice. Silence. 200 Spartans watch from the edges. No one moves. The state doesn't force marriage, girl. We're not barbarians. He steps closer. But Sparta needs warriors. Warriors need mothers. You have a womb. Sparta has use for it. Her voice cracks. I'm not cattle. No. He smiles. It doesn't reach his eyes. Cattle we slaughter. You. We'll give you purpose. 2 guards move forward. Gorgo jerks back. The rope bites her wrists. Wait, what are you breeding assignment. 3 warriors. Selected bloodlines. You'll serve until conception. He waves his hand like he's ordering grain. Take her to the temple. The crowd murmurs approval. One woman, gray-haired, scarred, nods slowly. Better she feeds Sparta than feeds on it. Gorgo's knees buckle. The guards catch her, drag her toward the stone steps. She doesn't scream. Screaming is weakness. But her eyes watch her eyes. They're not afraid. They're calculating. Visual moment 1. Marriage in the dark. That same night, across the city, Brasidas, 20 years old, stands outside a wooden door. He's never seen her, doesn't know her name, doesn't need to. His commander claps his shoulder. Your wife's inside. Do your duty. Return to barracks by dawn. That's it. That's it. Brasidas pushes the door open. Darkness swallows him. No lamps, no moonlight, just breathing hers, his. A voice from the bed, young, shaking slightly. Are you? Should I? Don't talk. 15 minutes. That's all it takes. Then he's dressing, leaving gone. She lies there alone, fingers twisted in the sheets. Outside, his brothers in arms are waiting. How was it? Brasidas shrugs. Couldn't see her face. They laugh. One punches his arm. You'll see her in 10 years, when you're allowed to live at home. If I live that long. More laughter. They disappear into the barracks. Inside the woman, her name is Lampedo, but no one's asked, presses her palm to her stomach. She wonders if that's all marriage is. Darkness. Duty. A man whose voice she won't recognize tomorrow. The historian Plutarch will later write, Spartan husbands often had children before they ever saw their wives in daylight. She believes it now. First retention hook. But here's what Athens never understood about Sparta. It wasn't just the men they controlled. It was the women, the wombs, the blood itself. Because Lycurgus, the lawgiver who built this machine 2 centuries ago, had realized something Rome and Athens hadn't. You can't breed warriors from weak mothers. So he made the women train, run, fight, not for freedom, for function. Action scene 1. The breeding chamber. 3 days later, Temple of Artemis, underground. Gorgo stands in a stone room, iron rings bolted to walls, a wooden bench, nothing else. The priestess, a woman with milky eyes, touches Gorgo's shoulder. Don't resist. It only makes it longer. How many times have you said that? The priestess doesn't answer. The door opens. 3 men enter. Warriors. Champions. One has scars across his chest. Olympic boxer. Another walks with the confidence of undefeated combat. The third is young, maybe 25, with a perfectly symmetrical face. They don't greet her. Don't introduce themselves. The eldest simply asks, "Are you clean?" Gorgo nods. "Good. Lie down." She doesn't move. He steps forward, not angry, just procedural. "This is easier if you cooperate." Her hands curl into fists. "And if I don't, then we hold you down." Silence. The other two shift their weight. Ready. Gorgo looks at the priestess. "Is this what you wanted when you were young?" The milky eyes blink. "What I wanted doesn't matter. What Sparta needs is all that matters." Gorgo's breath shudders. She lies down, counts the ceiling stones. 37 across, 42 deep, 1,554 total. She'll count them 3 times before it's over. When they're gone, the priestess brings water and bread. "You did well." "I did nothing." "Exactly." The priestess sits beside her. "Resistance is weakness. Acceptance is strength." Gorgo stares at the ceiling. "Who taught you that?" "My mother. When I was your age." A pause. "Before they took me here." "Did you ever conceive?" The priestess's hand moves to her stomach, an old instinct. "Twice. Both boys. Both approved. Both died in battle before 20. Her voice doesn't crack. She's had decades to practice this. Gorgo closes her eyes. "And you call that strength? I call it survival." Second visual moment. The training ground sunrise. The girls' training field. 12-year-old Siniska runs barefoot through mud spear in hand, legs pumping. She's racing 3 boys her age. She's winning. An Athenian merchant watches from the road, face twisted in disgust. He turns to his Spartan guide. "This is obscene. Girls should not display themselves this way." The Spartan, a veteran with one eye, doesn't look at him. "You want your sons drinking milk from weak breasts. You want them born from soft bellies. That's not. Strength comes from strength. Weak mothers make weak soldiers. We learned that the hard way." He spits. "You Athenians keep your women locked indoors, pale as ghosts. Then you wonder why your armies run." The merchant has no response. Siniska crosses the finish line, doesn't celebrate, just breathes hard, wipes sweat from her eyes, gets in line for the next drill. Her trainer, a woman in her 40s, nods once. "Good. Again. Faster." No praise. No encouragement. Just repetition. The Spartan way. But watch Siniska's face when she thinks no one's looking. The smallest smile. Pride she's not allowed to show. She likes being strong. She doesn't yet know what that strength will cost her. Second retention hook. 6 weeks pass. Gorgo returns to the temple every 3 days. Each visit the same. Sterile. Silent. Functional. Until the morning she vomits. The priestess examines her, touches her belly, nods. "You're pregnant." Gorgo should feel relief. She doesn't. "When do I get to leave?" "After the elders confirm it. 2 weeks. And then you carry it. 9 months. Eat what we tell you. Exercise as prescribed. No wine. No excess. No stress." "I'm carrying a child I didn't choose, fathered by men I don't know, for a state that sees me as a breeding animal. How exactly do I avoid stress?" The priestess's expression doesn't change. The same way we all do. Obedience. Bam. Third visual moment. The judgment. 9 months later. Dawn. Gorgo lies on a birthing platform, legs spread, body shaking with contractions. The midwife, efficient mechanical, delivers the baby in silence. A boy. Healthy cry, strong lungs. Gorgo reaches for him. "Let me." The midwife doesn't even look at her. Cuts the cord. Wraps the baby, turns toward the door. "Wait, he's mine." "Not yet." The door slams. Gorgo collapses back, arms empty, tears streaming. Not from pain, from powerlessness. Tabbed. The Jerusia chamber. 5 old men, 1 naked infant on a stone table. First elder lifts the baby's legs, tests the joints. Symmetrical. Second presses the chest. The baby wails. Good lung capacity. Third examines the skull, measures with his fingers. Proportional. Fourth checks the spine, the feet, the hands. Silence. Then the eldest nods. Approved. Register him. Mother nurses until age 7, then agoge. They hand the baby to a temple slave like he's a sack of grain. Back in the birthing room, Gorgo takes her son for the first time. He's asleep now, exhausted from crying. She traces his perfect fingers, his perfect toes, his perfect approved state-sanctioned existence. She whispers, "I'm sorry." Because she knows. In 7 years, she'll hand him over. Watch him march away, never hold him again. And if she cries, if she clings, if she begs him to stay, they'll call her weak, unworthy, a failure. So she'll smile instead, hand him a shield, tell him to come back victorious or dead. That's what good Spartan mothers do. Third retention hook. The other mother. 2 rooms away, another mother screams. The midwife has just taken her baby to the elders. A girl, born small, underweight. The judgment takes 30 seconds. Unfit. The father receives a silent nod. He knows what it means. He takes the baby from the mother's arms. She claws at him, shrieks, begs. Please, she'll grow, give her time, please. He doesn't look at her, can't. Out the door, up the mountain path, to the cliff called apothetai, the deposits. The baby cries for an hour, then stops. Whether from cold hunger or wild animals, no one checks. The father returns at dusk, washes his hands in the river, goes to the barracks, eats dinner with his brothers. No one asks where he's been. Everyone knows. This is the 3rd child he's carried to the cliff. He'll try again next year. Action Scene 2. The Question. That night, Gorgo can't sleep. She holds her son still unnamed, won't be named until the elders officially record him, and stares at the wall. The other mother's screams still echo in her head. She thinks, what's the difference? A few ounces. A slightly smaller skull. Her son shifts in her arms. Perfect by Sparta's measure. But what if they'd found something? A toe slightly crooked. A cry slightly weak. Would she have carried him to the cliff herself? The thought makes her sick. But the answer, she realizes with cold horror, is yes. Because in Sparta, you obey or you die. There is no third option. Historical anchor. The Greek historian Plutarch, writing 600 years after Lycurgus, records this system with barely concealed revulsion. Offspring was not reared at the will of the father, but was taken and carried by him to a place called Lesh, where the elders of the tribes officially examined the infant. If it was well built and sturdy, they ordered the father to rear it. But if it was ill-born and deformed, they sent it to the so-called apothetai, a chasm-like place at the foot of Mount Taygetus. He doesn't call it murder. Neither did the Spartans. They called it quality control. Fourth retention. Hook and philosophical turn. But here's the twist no one talks about. It worked. Not morally, not humanely, but functionally. Within 2 generations, Sparta's army became unstoppable. Soldiers taller, faster, stronger than anyone else in Greece. Infant mortality among those allowed to live lower than Athens or Thebes. They had optimized human breeding. But optimization is just another word for elimination. And what they eliminated wasn't just the weak, it was compassion, mercy. The idea that a human life has value beyond its utility. They turned mothers into factories, babies into products, love into treason, and they called it patriotism. Final climax, the naming 1 week later, public ceremony. Gorgo stands before the Gerousia, her son in her arms. The eldest elder reads from a scroll. This child born of approved bloodlines having passed inspection is granted citizenship. He shall be named. He looks at Gorgo. What do you call him? She hesitates. Naming means attachment. Attachment means pain. But she answers Leonidas. Leonidas, son of Sparta, registered. The mother will nurse him until year 7. Then he belongs to the state. He stamps the document. The crowd applauds. Gorgo looks down at Leonidas. His eyes are open now, dark, watching her face. He doesn't know, can't know, that his mother's love has an expiration date. 7 years, then he's gone. Cliffhanger ending. That night, Gorgo makes a decision. She'll love him, completely, fully, for 7 years. And when they come for him, when the soldiers arrive to take him to the agoge, she'll smile. She'll hand him a shield. She'll say the words every Spartan mother says, "Come back with this," or "on it." She'll play her role perfectly, because if she doesn't, they'll call her weak. And in Sparta, weakness is contagious. But alone in the dark, she'll remember this moment. A baby in her arms, still hers, still safe. Before the state claimed him, before the machine ground him down, before Sparta turned her son into a weapon. Leonidas sleeps, innocent, unaware. His mother holds him tighter and counts the days she has left. 2,555. She's already started. Silence, darkness, the sound of a baby's breath, soft, steady, temporary. Everything in Sparta is temporary, except obedience. Obedience is forever. 2,554 days left. Gorgo wakes before dawn, counts Leonidas's breaths in the darkness. 4 per 10 seconds. Healthy. Strong. She does this every morning now, a ritual born from terror disguised as love. Outside the city stirs. Soldiers running drills. Heelot slaves hauling water. The machine of Sparta grinding forward, indifferent to her fear. She kisses Leonidas's forehead. He doesn't wake. 7 years feels like forever when you're holding an infant. It feels like nothing when you know what's coming. Lampeto appears in the doorway, Brasidas' wife, the woman married in darkness. She's holding her own son now, 18 months old. Her eyes are hollow. They're starting the morning inspections. Gorgo tenses. Already, monthly health checks, new policy. Lampeto shifts her son to her other hip. They're looking for defects that develop later. The unspoken truth hangs between them. Even approved children can be unapproved. Even survivors can be sent to the cliff. Sparta's mercy has an expiration date. They walk together to the inspection grounds, joining a line of 40 mothers. Some cradle infants, others wrangle toddlers. All wear the same expression carefully. Blank faces, hiding the same calculation. Please let him pass. Please let him be perfect. Please don't take him. An elder walks down the line with a younger physician. They stop at each child. Measure. Prod. Record. The physician reaches Leonidas. Lifts his arm. Tests the joint rotation. Checks his teeth, 4, now all straight. Presses his chest. Counts heartbeats. Healthy. Next. Gorgo exhales. 2,553 days left. But 3 mothers behind her, the physician pauses. A 2-year-old boy, small for his age. Failure to thrive. Inadequate growth rate. The mother's voice breaks. He eats. I feed him everything they tell me. Growth rate insufficient. The physician makes a mark in his ledger. Report to the Jerusia tomorrow. The mother collapses. Other women look away. Lampeto whispers, "That's the 4th this month." Gorgo holds Leonidas tighter. What happens to them? Same as infants. Just takes longer for them to stop crying on the cliff. The casual brutality of it, the way Lampeto says it without emotion like she's describing weather, that's what breaks something in Gorgo. Not the policy itself. The fact that they've all learned to accept it. Year 1 ends. Leonidas walks. His first word isn't mama, it's spear. Gorgo should be proud. Instead, she feels nauseous, because she knows what it means. He's already learning, already absorbing. The language of Sparta is violence, and her son is becoming fluent. Year 2. Leonidas runs, climbs, fights with other boys in the training yards, mimicking the soldiers he watches every day. One afternoon, Gorgo finds him in the courtyard standing over a smaller boy, maybe 4 years old, holding a wooden sword to his throat. "Yield," Leonidas commands. The boy is crying. "I yield, I yield." Leonidas doesn't move. "Say it louder, like you mean it." Gorgo rushes forward, pulls Leonidas back. "What are you doing?" He looks confused. "Training, like the soldiers." "He's smaller than you." "So Spartans don't fight fair." Commander Darius said weakness is the enemy. His eyes, so young, so certain, bore into hers. "Are you telling me Commander Darius is wrong?" She opens her mouth, closes it, because to say yes is to contradict Sparta, and to contradict Sparta in front of children is to teach them doubt, and doubt is treason. She releases him. "Go play." He runs off, already forgotten the incident. The smaller boy limps home, still crying. Gorgo stands alone in the courtyard, hands shaking. What have they done to him? What am I letting them do? But the answer is simple. Exactly what she agreed to when she conceived him. Sparta doesn't raise children. It manufactures soldiers. And the manufacturing starts younger than anyone wants to admit. Year 3. The nightmares begin. Leonidas wakes screaming about monsters. Gorgo holds him, rocks him, whispers comfort. But the next morning when she mentions it to the physician, he frowns. Nightmares indicate weakness of spirit. Is he crying often? He's 5 years old. Spartan boys don't cry. The physician makes a note. We'll monitor this. If it continues, we may need to accelerate his agoge entry. Accelerate, he's not even 7. Better to harden him young than lose him to softness later. The physician's tone is clinical. You wouldn't want him to fail because you coddled him, would you? The threat is clear. Be a good mother. Toughen him up. Or we will. That night, when Leonidas wakes crying, Gorgo doesn't comfort him. She stands in the doorway, arms crossed, and says, "Spartans don't cry." He stares at her, tears on his cheeks, confusion in his eyes. "But I'm scared." "Then be brave." Her voice cracks, but she doesn't soften. Fear is a choice. Choose strength. He whimpers once more. She doesn't move. Eventually he stops, lies back down, silent. She returns to her room and vomits. This is what they mean by raising Spartans. You don't raise them. You break them. And they make the mothers do it so the state's hands stay clean. Year 4. Brasidas comes home. After 10 years in the barracks, soldiers are finally allowed to live with their wives. Lampedo prepares for weeks, cleans the house, cooks his favorite foods, braids her hair. Gorgo helps her dress. Nervous. I don't even know what he looks like. Lampedo's hands shake as she ties her belt. What if he's different? What if I'm different? You're the same person you were 10 years ago. Am I? Lampedo meets her eyes in the bronze mirror. I've had 2 children. One's dead. The other barely knows men exist. I've been alone for a decade. And now I'm supposed to, pretend we're in love? Gorgo has no answer. That evening, Brasidas arrives. 30 years old now, scarred from a decade of campaigns. He stands in the doorway staring at Lampedo like she's a stranger, because she is. You're taller than I thought, he says finally. She laughs sharp, bitter. You've never seen me before. I have. Once. In darkness. That doesn't count. Silence. Their son, 9 years old now, watches from the corner, uncertain. Brasidas notices him. He looks strong. He is. Good. Brasidas sets down his pack. I'll start training him. He goes to agoge in 3 years. Needs to be ready. I've been training him. You're his mother. I'm his commanding officer now. Not cruel. Just factual. That's how it works. Lampedo's face goes blank. The same expression Gorgo has seen on every Spartan woman. The mask they all wear when their feelings become inconvenient. Of course, Lampedo says. Whatever Sparta needs. That night, through the thin walls, Gorgo hears them. Not passion, not reunion. Mechanical, dutiful, silent. And afterward, Lampedo crying muffled into her pillow where no one can hear. The next morning, Brasidas is gone. Back to the barracks. He'll visit once a week now. For dinner. For function. But he'll never truly come home. Because Sparta doesn't have homes. It has barracks and breeding grounds. Everything else is just waiting. Year 5. Leonidas kills his first living thing, a rabbit, wounded limping. He finds it in the training yard, picks up a rock and smashes its skull. Clean, efficient, no hesitation. He brings it to Gorgo, proud. For dinner. She stares at the small body in his hands, blood on his fingers. His smile so innocent, so pleased with himself. Good, she forces herself to say. You did well. He beams. That night she cooks the rabbit. They eat it together. Leonidas chatters about his day, the drills he watched the commander who praised his spear throw the older boy who challenged him to wrestle and lost. He's happy, and that more than anything terrifies her, because she remembers the boy who cried from nightmares, the boy who needed comfort. That boy is disappearing, being replaced by something harder, colder, something Sparta-shaped. The historian Xenophon would later write, in Sparta the boy is taught that victory is everything, that mercy is weakness, that his life has value only in service to the state. By age 7 the transformation is already complete. The child is gone. Only the weapon remains. Gorgo sees it happening, watches her son vanish inch by inch, and she is powerless to stop it, because stopping it means defying Sparta. And defying Sparta means death. Not just hers, his. So she smiles, praises him, encourages his violence, and dies a little more each day. Year 6. The final year. Siniska. The girl from the training yards, now 18, appears at Gorgo's door. Pregnant. Unmarried. I need your help. Gorgo pulls her inside. Who's the father? Does it matter? Siniska's hand rests on her belly. I'm not married. They'll take it, inspect it, and if it's a girl, she doesn't finish. Girls born to unmarried mothers rarely pass inspection. Too expensive to raise. No political value. Easier to eliminate. Gorgo grips her shoulders. Listen to me. You go to the elders. You request emergency marriage assignment. They'll pair you with someone, doesn't matter who. Just get married before you give birth. And if they refuse, silence. They both know the answer. Siniska leaves at dawn. Gorgo never sees her again. But 3 months later, she hears the whispers. Siniska went to the elders. They refused emergency marriage, said she should have thought about consequences before lying with a man. She gave birth alone. A girl. Healthy. The elders took one look and said, illegitimate, unregistered. Dispose of it. Siniska walked to Epiphatai herself, carried her own daughter, placed her on the rocks, then walked to the cliff's edge and jumped. They found them together the next morning, mother and daughter, broken on the stones below. The elders recorded it as training accident. No investigation, no questions, just another line in the ledger. Lampedo tells Gorgo this, over bread and silence. She was the fastest runner in our generation, Lampedo says quietly, could throw a javelin farther than most men, and Sparta threw her away like spoiled meat. Gorgo's hands curl into fists, because she wasn't useful anymore. Because she loved her child more than she loved the state. Lampedo meets her eyes. That's the real crime. The words hang heavy between them, because they both know in 1 year they'll be tested the same way. When the soldiers come for their sons, when the state demands what it's owed, will they smile and surrender, or will they love their children more than they fear death? Year 7 arrives like an execution date. Leonidas is ready, strong, fast, fearless, everything Sparta wants. Gorgo is not ready, will never be ready, but ready doesn't matter. The morning of collection day, she wakes before dawn, watches Leonidas sleep one last time. His face, still soft in sleep, still childlike, will harden in the agoge. The commanders will beat the softness out, starve the weakness away, break him down and rebuild him as a weapon. She has 2 hours left with him. She doesn't wake him early, doesn't steal extra time, because even goodbye is a test, and Sparta is always watching. When Leonidas wakes, she's already dressed, prepared, the mask firmly in place. "Today's the day," she says. No emotion, pure fact. He sits up, eyes bright with excitement. "I'm ready." "I know you are." She hands him bread and cheese. He eats quickly, eager. "Will you visit me?" "No, mothers aren't allowed in the agoge." "Why not?" "Because attachment is weakness." He considers this, nods. That makes sense. Something in her chest tears apart. He believes it. He actually believes it. Outside, drums begin. The signal. Collection time. They walk together to the assembly ground. 50 boys, all 7 years old. 50 mothers, all wearing the same mask. The commander, a scarred veteran named Theron, stands at the center. His voice carries like a whip crack. "Today, you stop being children. You become Spartans. Your mothers have prepared you. Now we perfect you." His eyes sweep across the boys. "You will not see your families for 13 years. You will not receive letters. You will not be comforted when you suffer, because suffering builds strength, and strength is all that matters." He pauses. "Mothers, your final gift." The women step forward. Each holds a small wooden shield, child-sized, painted with Sparta's lambda. Gorgo kneels before Leonidas, hands him the shield. She's supposed to say the traditional words, "Come back with this," or on it, "Return victorious," or "Return dead." Those are the only acceptable options. But when she opens her mouth, what comes out is, "Come back." Leonidas frowns. "You forgot the rest." "No, I didn't." She grips his shoulders. "Just come back, however you can, whenever you can. Just come back to me." His confusion deepens. "But that's not, I don't care." Her voice drops to a whisper. "You're my son, before you're Sparta's, always." For one moment, just one, she sees the fear in his eyes, the child beneath the warrior in training. He whispers, "I'm scared." "I know. Be scared. Be human. Don't let them take that from you." Then Commander Theron's voice booms, "Mothers, step back." She releases him, stands, joins the other women. Leonidas looks back once. She doesn't wave, doesn't cry, just watches as the line of 7-year-olds marches toward the barracks, watches until they disappear behind stone walls, watches until the gates close. Then alone in her empty house, she finally screams. No one hears, no one comes. Because in Sparta, grief is a private shame. And love, real love, mother's love, the love that refuses to let go, that love is treason, punishable by silence. 2,555 days. She counted every one, and now they're gone. All she has left are memories, and the terrible certainty that when she sees her son again, if she sees him again, he won't be her son anymore. He'll be Sparta's. Just another weapon in the endless war. Just another sacrifice to the machine. The door closes behind her. The house is so quiet. She can still smell him, sweat and dirt and boy. She presses her face into his blanket and breathes deep. Tomorrow she'll wash it. Today she mourns. The gates close. Inside, 57-year-olds stand in a courtyard. No mothers, no comfort. Just stone walls and the sound of their own breathing. Leonidas grips his wooden shield tighter. The boy next to him is already crying silent tears, trying to hide them. Commander Theron walks the line slowly. Stops at the crying boy. Name. Nicias, son of... I didn't ask who your father was. Theron crouches down eye level. Why are you crying? I miss my mother. Your mother is gone. You have no mother now. You have Sparta. He stands. Drop the shield. Nicias hesitates. I said drop it. The shield clatters to the ground. Theron picks it up, examines it, then smashes it against the wall. Wood splinters everywhere. You don't deserve this yet. Earn it back. He turns to the group. All of you. You think you're warriors because your mothers handed you painted wood. You're nothing. Soft. Weak. Children. He walks to the center of the courtyard. For the next 13 years, we will break you, starve you, beat you, humiliate you. Some of you will die. Most of you will want to die. But if you survive, if you prove worthy, you will become what Athens fears, what Persia trembles at, what the world kneels before. He lets that sink in. You will become Spartans. A pause. Now run. 50 laps. Last one finishes, gets no dinner. They run. Nicias falls behind immediately. His legs too short, his breath too ragged. Leonidas could slow down, could help him. Instead, he runs faster, because Commander Theron is watching. And in Sparta, mercy is punished. Competition is rewarded. Nicias finishes last. He gets nothing that night, just water. And the other boys, including Leonidas, eat barley porridge while he watches stomach growling. The lesson is clear. Your brothers are not your friends. They are your competition. And competition never shows mercy. 3 days and the beatings start. Not from the commanders, from the older boys. At 14, 15, 16 boys who've survived 7 years already, they're given authority over the younger ones. Permission to toughen them up, which means terrorize them. Leonidas is in the sleeping barracks when 3 older boys corner him. The leader, a scarred 16-year-old named Aristos, grabs him by the hair. New meat. You look soft. I'm not. Aristos punches him in the stomach. Leonidas doubles over, gasping. Did I say you could talk? The other 2 laugh. One kicks Leonidas's legs out from under him. He hits the ground hard. Listen, little Leonidas. Here's how it works. You do what we say. You give us half your food. And maybe we don't make your life hell. Leonidas looks up, vision blurred with pain and tears he refuses to shed. No. Aristos blinks. What? No. Leonidas stands, legs shaking. I won't. The beating that follows lasts 5 minutes. When it's over, Leonidas can barely move. 2 broken ribs, black eye, split lip. The commanders see him the next morning, say nothing. Because this is part of the training. Learn to take pain. Learn to fight back, or learn to die. Plutarch records it plainly. The boys of the agoge were subject to such severe discipline that the word Spartan became synonymous with the ability to endure pain without complaint. That night, Leonidas doesn't sleep. He lies awake, planning. Revenge isn't weakness if it makes you stronger. 1 week later, Aristos is alone in the latrine. Leonidas strikes from behind. A rock to the back of the head. Aristos goes down hard. Leonidas doesn't stop. Hits him again, until hands pull him off. Commander Theron stares down at both boys. Aristos is bleeding from the scalp. Leonidas's hands are covered in blood. Theron says nothing for a long moment. Then, Aristos, you allowed yourself to be ambushed. Weak. No dinner for 3 days. He turns to Leonidas. You. Good instinct. Poor execution. You should have finished him. Half rations for 2 days. Both boys stare. Did you expect praise? Theron's voice is cold. This isn't a game. This is training. Next time be smarter, or be dead. He walks away. Leonidas looks at Aristos. Aristos looks back. No apology, no truce, just mutual understanding. Next time don't get caught. The violence is the point. Not punishment, not cruelty. Evolution. They're not raising boys. They're breeding predators. 6 months pass. Winter comes. The boys sleep on thin mats, no blankets. They're given 1 cloak, each must last the entire year. Food is rationed to just below starvation level. The commanders explain it simply, a hungry wolf hunts better than a fed one. So the boys learn to steal. Not from outside the agoge that's forbidden, from each other. From the helot slaves who bring supplies. From the kitchen stores if they're clever enough. Getting caught means a beating, but not stealing means starving. It's a game with no winning move, just survival. Leonidas becomes good at it, learns to move silently, watches patrol patterns, identifies weak points in the supply chain. One night, he and two other boys, Nicias the crier who's learned to hide his tears, and Cleomenes, a quiet boy with quick hands, break into the grain storage. They fill their cloaks with barley, turn to leave. The door opens. Commander Theron stands there, lamp in hand. All three boys freeze. Theron looks at the grain, looks at them. "How much did you take?" Cleomenes stammers. We weren't. "How much?" "2 pounds each," Leonidas says. "Show me." They open their cloaks. Theron examines the grain, nods slowly. "Good haul. Enough for 3 days if you ration it." He steps aside. "Go." They stare. "I said go, before I change my mind." They scramble past him. Outside, Nicias gasps. "Why didn't he punish us?" "Because we didn't get caught," Leonidas says. "He caught us. That's different." Cleomenes shakes his head. "I don't understand. We're supposed to steal. We're supposed to break rules. We just can't get caught by anyone except the commanders." Leonidas looks back at the storage building. They're not teaching us to obey. They're teaching us to be clever. It's a revelation, and a horror. Because if the teachers are rewarding deception, manipulation, theft, what kind of men are they creating? The answer becomes clear at age 12. The Crypteia, the final test. Commander Theron gathers the boys, now teenagers hardened by 5 years of systematic brutality, in the courtyard at midnight. "Tonight you become hunters. Each of you will receive a knife. No other weapons. No supplies. You will leave the city and enter helot territory." The helots, the slave class that outnumbers Spartans 10 to 1. They work the fields, build the infrastructure, and hate their masters with a fury that simmers just beneath the surface. Theron continues, "Your task is simple. Find a helot, the strongest, most dangerous one you can find. Kill him. Bring proof." Nicias's voice cracks. "Kill, you mean?" "I mean exactly that." Theron's eyes are dead. "The helots are our greatest threat. They outnumber us. They despise us. And one day they will rebel. When that happens, we need to know who their leaders are, who the strong ones are." He pauses. "So we cull them, every year. You will hunt them like animals, and you will learn that killing is not a sin, it's a skill." Leonidas feels his stomach turn. They're unarmed. They're slaves. Property, no different than cattle. Theron hands each boy a blade. "You have until dawn. Those who return empty-handed will repeat the trial. Those who refuse..." He doesn't finish. He doesn't need to. Refusal means expulsion from the agoge, which means loss of citizenship, which means exile or death. The boys take their knives and disappear into the night. Xenophon describes the Crypteia with chilling precision. The young men would scatter into the countryside equipped only with daggers and minimal supplies. During the day they hid and rested. At night they emerged to kill any helot they encountered. Often they killed the ablest and strongest among them. This wasn't training anymore. This was murder sanctioned by the state. Leonidas moves through the darkness, knife in hand, heart hammering. He finds a helot village just before dawn. Small, maybe 30 families. He watches from the tree line. An older man, maybe 50, muscles built from decades of labor, emerges from a hut, stretches, yawns. This is the target, strong, capable, dangerous in Sparta's eyes. Leonidas waits until the man moves toward the well. Alone, isolated, then strikes. Fast, from behind, blade to the throat. The man gurgles, collapses. Leonidas stands over him, watching him die. It takes 40 seconds, feels like hours. The man's eyes, wide, confused, terrified, stare up at him. And Leonidas thinks, this is someone's father, husband, son. But that thought is weakness. So he buries it, cuts off the man's ear as proof, and runs back toward the agoge. He's the third to return. Nicias arrives an hour later, covered in blood, shaking violently. Cleomenes never returns. They find him 3 days later, throat cut. The helots had fought back. The commanders display his body in the courtyard. This, Theron announces, is what happens when you hesitate, when you show mercy. Cleomenes thought like a child, and children die. He lets them look at the corpse for a full minute. Bury him, then forget him. He was weak. The weak don't deserve memory. But Leonidas doesn't forget, can't forget, because Cleomenes was his friend, or the closest thing to a friend the agoge allowed, and now he's dead, murdered for the crime of hesitation. That night, Leonidas lies awake, the dead. Helot's face burned into his mind, and he realizes something terrible. He doesn't feel guilty. He feels nothing. The commanders have succeeded. They've killed the boy, killed his empathy, killed his conscience. All that's left is the weapon. The philosopher Plutarch would later write, "The Spartans did not educate their young. They traumatized them systematically until only the hardest survived and called the result virtue." But here's what Sparta never admitted. The survivors weren't the strongest. They were the most broken. The ones who could sever themselves from their own humanity. The ones who could kill without question. Follow without doubt. Obey without hesitation. They weren't warriors. They were damaged men in armor. Year 13, age 20. Graduation. Of the original 50 boys, 32 remain. 18 dead. Some from training accidents. Some from disease. Some from the cryptia. Some from suicide, though Sparta never calls it that. Just training failures. Leonidas stands in formation with the others. They're given full hoplite armor for the first time. Spear, shield, helmet. Commander Theron, older, now grayer, addresses them for the last time. "You are no longer boys. You are Spartan warriors. You have earned your citizenship through blood and pain. The state is proud." A pause. "You are also nothing. The youngest, the least experienced, the weakest in our army." His voice hardens. "You have survived childhood. Now you must survive war. Most of you won't." He dismisses them. Just like that. 13 years of hell, and the reward is more hell. Just a different flavor. Leonidas removes his helmet. His reflection in the bronze is a stranger's face. Scarred. Hard. Empty. He tries to remember his mother. Can't quite picture her face. Tries to remember what it felt like to be loved. That memory is even fainter. Nicias approaches him. "Do you think they'll let us visit home? We don't have homes, we have barracks. But our mothers are strangers who gave birth to us." Leonidas's voice is flat. "We belong to Sparta. They taught us that every day for 13 years. Did you forget?" Nicias looks away. "No, I thought maybe..." "Don't think. Don't hope. Just obey." Leonidas turns. "That's all we're good for now." He walks toward the barracks. Behind him, Nicias whispers, "What did they do to us?" But Leonidas doesn't answer, because he knows. They took 50 children and turned them into 32 monsters. Efficient, obedient, lethal. And they called it education. That night, for the first time in 13 years, Leonidas dreams of his mother. She's standing at the agoge gates waiting, smiling. He runs toward her, but the closer he gets, the farther away she becomes. He calls out. She doesn't hear. He screams. She doesn't turn. And then she's gone. Just empty air where she stood. He wakes gasping, covered in sweat. Around him, 31 other men sleep, all dreaming their own versions of the same nightmare, all wondering the same thing. If we survive long enough to have sons, will we do this to them too? The answer, of course, is yes. Because that's what Sparta does. It doesn't break chains. It forges new ones, generation after generation. Forever. 20 years pass like water through a sieve. Wars, battles, blood. Leonidas survives them all. He's 40 now, a decorated officer, veteran of 18 campaigns, the kind of warrior Sparta holds up as proof their system works. But today, he's not marching to war. He's walking home, for the first time in 33 years. The streets of Sparta look smaller than he remembers, or maybe he's just grown. The house, his mother's house, stands at the end of a narrow lane, door painted red, same as it was. He hesitates at the threshold. What does he say to her, the woman who gave birth to him, loved him for 7 years, then handed him to the machine? Does she even remember him? Does he remember her? He knocks, footsteps. The door opens. Gorgo stands there, 50 now, gray in her hair, lines around her eyes, but those eyes sharp, knowing, sad, those haven't changed. She stares at him. He stares back. Mother. Leonidas. Her voice cracks slightly. Just slightly. You're alive. I am. Silence. Awkward. Painful. She steps aside. Come in. The house is exactly as he remembers, and nothing like he remembers. The wooden toys he played with are gone. The blankets she wrapped him in, the small shoes, erased, like he never existed. They sit across from each other at a small table. She pours wine. Her hands shake. You look well, she says. I'm a soldier. We don't look well. We look functional. She flinches. I know what you meant. He drinks. How have you been? Alive, like you. She meets his eyes. They told me you were promoted, commander of your own unit. I was. Your father would be proud. I never met him. Neither did I. Not really. She laughs, bitter, broken. We were married in darkness. He visited twice, then died at Plataea. She refills her cup. That's Sparta for you. We make children with strangers, raise them alone, then give them to the state to be destroyed. Destroyed? His voice hardens. I'm alive. I'm strong. You're empty. She leans forward. Look at me and tell me you feel anything. Joy, fear, love, anything. He opens his mouth, closes it. Because she's right. He feels nothing. Hasn't felt anything real since he was 7. The agoge didn't just train him, it hollowed him out. That's what I thought. She sits back. I gave birth to a beautiful boy. They returned a weapon to me, and they expect me to call that success. It is success. I survived. Most didn't. Survival isn't living, Leonidas. It's just not dying. Her voice drops. Do you even remember me? Really remember? Not the idea of a mother me, who I was, what I sounded like when I sang you to sleep, how I held you when you were scared. He tries, searches his memories. There's nothing there, just a vague shape, a feeling, but no details. No, he admits, I don't. She nods slowly, tears in her eyes now. They took that from you, on purpose, because a soldier who loves his mother might hesitate, might question, might choose humanity over duty. And you think that's wrong? I think it's monstrous. She stands abruptly. I think we built a city on breaking our own children and convinced ourselves it was noble. I think every mother in Sparta looks at her son and sees a ghost, because the boy we loved died the day you walked through those gates. Leonidas stands too. Then why did you do it? Why did you give me to them? Because if I didn't, they'd take you anyway, and call me a traitor. Her voice breaks. At least this way I could pretend I had a choice. They stand there, mother and son, strangers bound by blood. Finally, Leonidas says, I have a son now, 4 years old. Her face goes pale. No. His name is... Don't tell me his name. She grips the table. Don't make me love him. Not when I know what's coming. He's strong. He'll survive. That's not the point. She slams her hand down. Don't you understand? Survival isn't enough. We're not supposed to just endure, we're supposed to live, to love, to be human. Humanity is weakness. Who taught you that? Everyone, every day, for 13 years. And you believed them. She shakes her head. Gods help us. You actually believed them. He has no response, because what else was he supposed to do? Question, resist that way leads to death. When your son turns 7, Gorgo says quietly, you'll hand him over, just like I did. And he'll look at you the same way you're looking at me right now, like I'm a stranger. A tool. Something that served its purpose and became irrelevant. She walks to a wooden chest, opens it, pulls out something wrapped in cloth, his baby blanket, faded now, worn. I kept this, every day for 33 years. I'd hold it and pretend you were still here, still mine. She sets it on the table. But you're not. You never really were. I was just borrowing you. Until Sparta wanted you back. Leonidas stares at the blanket. Something stirs in his chest, faint, almost forgotten. Pain. He picks it up, the fabric rough against his calloused hands. And for just a moment, just one he remembers. Being small, being safe, being loved. Then the memory fades, and he's just a soldier again, holding a piece of cloth, feeling nothing. He sets it down. I should go. Of course you should. She doesn't look at him. Duty calls. It always does. He walks to the door, pauses. Did you ever regret it, having me? She turns, tears streaming now. Every single day. He nods, leaves. Behind him, Gorgo collapses into a chair, the blanket clutched to her chest, and sobs. No one hears. No one comes. Because in Sparta, grief is always private, and love, real love, is always punished. 3 years later, Leonidas' son turns 7. His name is Pleistarchus, strong, fast, perfect by Sparta's measures. Leonidas stands with him at the agoge gates, the same gates he entered 33 years ago. Pleistarchus looks up at him. Will I see you again? In 13 years. That's a long time. It is. Will you miss me? Leonidas wants to say yes, wants to pull his son close and tell him not to go, to run, to escape this place before it destroys him like it destroyed everyone else. But he doesn't, because he's a good Spartan, and good Spartans don't feel. You'll be too busy to miss me, Leonidas says. Focus on training. Be strong. Survive. He hands Pleistarchus the shield. Come back with this, or on it. Pleistarchus takes it, nods seriously, then walks through the gates. Leonidas watches him disappear and feels nothing. Just like his mother predicted. The machine has worked perfectly. It's broken another generation. But something happens. Something Sparta didn't plan for. The system so perfect in theory begins to crack. Because wars kill men faster than women can breed them. By the 4th century BC, Sparta's population collapses. Of the 9,000 citizen soldiers who once formed the army, only 1,500 remain. The rest dead or never born. The breeding program that promised strength has delivered extinction. Aristotle, watching from Athens, writes with dark satisfaction, "The Spartans have been ruined by their population decline. The city cannot sustain the shock of a single defeat and is perishing from shortage of men." He's right. The final irony of Sparta's experiment. They bred for perfection so aggressively they forgot to breed for survival. They culled the weak so ruthlessly they culled themselves. Leonidas sees it happening, watches the barracks empty year by year. Watches training classes shrink from 50 boys to 30, then 20, then 12. The machine is eating itself, and there's nothing anyone can do. Because to change the system would be to admit it was wrong. And Sparta never admits error. Year 371 BC, the Battle of Leuctra. Sparta faces Thebes, supposedly an easy victory. But Thebes has learned from Sparta, studied their tactics, found the weakness. The Spartan phalanx, undefeated for 2 centuries, shatters. 400 Spartans die in a single afternoon, including Leonidas, a spear through the chest. Quick, clean. He dies thinking of his son, wondering if Pleistarchus will survive the agoge, wondering if survival even matters anymore. His last thought isn't of glory, it's of his mother, holding that faded blanket, sobbing alone. He wishes he'd stayed longer that day, wishes he'd felt something. Anything. But wishes don't matter. Only duty matters. And duty has finally killed him. His body is carried back to Sparta, cremated. His ashes placed in a simple urn. No ceremony, no tears. Just another name added to the list of the dead. Efficient. Functional. Forgettable. Gorgo hears of his death 3 days later. She doesn't cry. Already cried all her tears decades ago. She just nods. Of course. That night she takes out the baby blanket one last time, holds it, smells it, though his scent vanished years ago, and whispers, "I'm sorry. I should have fought harder, should have said no, should have chosen you over Sparta." But she didn't. None of them did. And now her son is dead. A casualty of a system that promised greatness and delivered graves. She folds the blanket carefully, places it back in the chest, locks it, and never opens it again, because memory is just another form of weakness. And weakness in Sparta must always be buried. Pleistarchus completes the agoge, survives, becomes a soldier. He visits his grandmother once, briefly. She offers him wine. He refuses. Soldiers don't drink on duty. "You're not on duty. I'm always on duty." She recognizes the words, the tone, the emptiness. He's his father's son, which means he's already lost. "Your father loved you." She lies. "He told me so." Pleistarchus looks at her blankly. "Love is inefficient." "Who taught you that?" "Everyone." She nods. "Of course they did." He leaves. She never sees him again. 2 generations. Both destroyed. And Sparta calls it success. 50 years later, Sparta is a ruin. The population too small to defend itself. The army too weak to inspire fear. Philip of Macedon, father of Alexander the Great, marches through Greece, conquering city after city. He sends a message to Sparta: "If I enter Laconia, I will raise Sparta to the ground." Sparta's response is one word: if. Their famous defiance, their legendary pride. But Philip doesn't invade. Not because he fears them, because they're not worth the effort. Sparta has already destroyed itself. The experiment is over, and all that remains are ghosts. Gorgo dies at 72, alone in her house, clutching that blanket. Her last words whispered to no one, "I should have said no." But it's too late. It was always too late. The machine doesn't stop because one person objects. It stops when there's no one left to feed it. And Sparta, the perfect city, the warrior state, the breeding program that promised gods, Sparta starved itself to death. 1 generation at a time. 1 broken child at a time. 1 mother's silent scream at a time. In the ruins of the agoge, archaeologists will one day find thousands of small wooden shields, child-sized, painted with lambdas, left behind by boys who never came home. Each one a promise broken. Each one a life erased. Each one proof that perfection, real perfection, can never be bred. Only broken toward, and everything you break in pursuit of strength breaks you in return. The ruins don't weep. They just stand there, crumbling stone, broken columns, empty barracks where children once screamed. Tourists walk through them now, take pictures, read plaques about legendary warriors and military excellence. They don't see the blood in the mortar, don't hear the ghosts. But the ghosts are there, in every fallen wall, every forgotten name, every child who never came home. 146 BC. Rome conquers what's left of Greece. A Roman general named Lucius Mummius walks through Sparta with his officers. The city is nearly deserted now. A few hundred people remain. Old, tired, irrelevant. One of his officers laughs. This is Sparta. This is what Athens feared. Mummius doesn't laugh. He's studied history. Knows what this place once was. Don't mock the dead, he says quietly. This city didn't fall to us. It fell to itself. They continue walking. Past the agoge, past the Gerousia chambers, past the temple where women were bred like livestock. Mummius stops at a stone memorial, names carved into granite, thousands of them, soldiers who died in service to the state. His officer reads a few. Leonidas, Brasidas, Nicias, were they heroes? They were children, Mummius says, turned into weapons, used until they broke, then replaced. He touches the stone. Rome does the same thing. So does Athens. So does every empire that ever existed. We just don't call it evil. We call it necessity. Is there a difference? Not really. Mummius turns away. We just tell better lies about it. They leave. The memorial stands. The names remain. But no one remembers the people behind them anymore. Just the myth. And myths are easier than truth. 3 centuries later, a Greek historian named Plutarch sits in his study in Chaeronea, scrolling through ancient documents about Sparta. He's writing a biography, trying to understand what made them tick, what drove them to build such a brutal system. The more he reads, the more disturbed he becomes. He writes, "The Spartans did not merely train their young, they traumatized them systematically, severing all natural bonds of affection, until only obedience remained. They believed this created virtue. In truth, it created only efficient slaves dressed in free men's armor." He pauses, rereads what he wrote. Too harsh. Too honest. No. Not harsh enough. He continues, "When I think of Sparta, I do not think of Thermopylae or Leuctra. I think of the mothers who handed over their sons knowing they would never truly see them again. I think of the children thrown from cliffs for the crime of being born imperfect. I think of a civilization so terrified of weakness that it murdered its own humanity and called the result strength." He sets down his pen, stares at the lamp flame, and wonders if Sparta could see itself clearly, really see what it became. Would it feel shame, or would it just do it all again? He suspects the latter. Because systems don't learn. They just repeat, until something breaks them. Year 396 AD. Christianity has swept through the Roman Empire. The old gods are dying. A Christian monk named Jerome visits the ruins of Sparta. He's writing about ancient evils, warning his flock about the dangers of paganism. He walks through the empty agoge, sees the training yards where children were beaten, the barracks where they slept on stone, the cliffs where the unwanted were discarded. He kneels, prays, then writes in his journal, "Here is the city that tried to build heaven on earth and built hell instead. They believed in perfection through pain, strength through suffering, glory through sacrifice. They got none of it. Only graves, only ghosts, only the echo of mothers weeping for sons who died defending a system that never loved them back." He pauses, adds one more line, "May God have mercy on them, because Sparta never did." He leaves a small wooden cross planted in the ground. It rots within a year. Nature reclaims the city. Vines grow over the agoge walls. Trees push through the Gerousia chambers. The cliffs of Apothetai become just another mountain path, unremarkable, unnamed, forgotten. Only the stones remain, and stones don't testify. Fast forward. Year 1834. Greece has won independence from the Ottoman Empire. A new city is built on the ruins of ancient Sparta. Modern, clean, European style. The architects want to erase the past, build something fresh. But the locals, descendants of Helots, not Spartans, refuse. An old woman, 90 years old, stands in the town square and shouts at the construction crew. You don't bury evil by building over it. You remember it, so it doesn't happen again. The foreman ignores her. Old woman, go home. The past is dead. The past is never dead. She spits at his feet. My ancestors were slaves here, hunted by children for sport, killed so boys could graduate. You think building pretty houses erases that? It's been 2,000 years. 2,000 years doesn't change what happened, it just makes it easier to forget. She turns to the crowd, and forgetting is how it happens again. No one listens. The construction continues. The old woman dies 3 weeks later. Her warning dies with her, but she was right. Because 25 centuries after Sparta fell, the world still worships its ghost. Military academies study Spartan tactics. Politicians praise Spartan discipline. Parents joke about Spartan parenting, as if it was admirable, as if children don't still carry the scars. Year 1939. Nazi Germany is rising. Hitler's SS studies ancient warrior cultures for inspiration. They focus heavily on Sparta. Heinrich Himmler, architect of the Holocaust, writes in a memo, "The Spartans understood what we are only now rediscovering, that the weak must be eliminated for the strong to thrive. That sentiment is the enemy of the state. That breeding, not sentiment, creates superior men." He orders SS training camps modeled on the agoge. Brutal, systematic, designed to break boys and rebuild them as killers. When Allied forces liberate these camps in 1945, they find training manuals explicitly citing Spartan methods: starvation to encourage theft, violence to encourage hardness, murder to eliminate hesitation. The survivors' teenage boys, hollow-eyed and broken, describe the same thing Leonidas experienced. The same erasure of humanity, the same worship of strength, the same belief that cruelty equals virtue. One boy interviewed by American soldiers says, "They told us we were becoming supermen. We just became empty." The interviewer asks, "Do you hate them, the commanders who did this?" The boy thinks for a long time. Then, "No, I hate that I believed them. That part of me still does." That's the real horror of Sparta's legacy. Not that it happened, but that we keep believing it was worth it. Year 2018. Silicon Valley. A tech CEO gives a speech at a leadership conference. His company is famous for brutal work culture, 100-hour weeks, cutthroat competition, employees breaking down in bathrooms. He quotes Sparta proudly, "Only the strong survive. If you can't handle the heat, you weren't meant to be here. We're building the future, and the future doesn't coddle weakness." The audience applauds. Later, a reporter asks him about the suicide rate among his employees. He shrugs. "Tragic, but we can't sacrifice excellence for comfort. Sparta understood that. They built warriors. We're building innovators. Same principle." Sparta collapsed, the reporter points out. "Because they stopped being Spartan," the CEO says confidently. "They got soft, lost their edge. We won't make that mistake." 6 months later, his company faces a massive lawsuit. Hundreds of former employees testify about psychological abuse, trauma, PTSD. The CEO resigns, issues a statement, "I was trying to build something great. I didn't realize the cost." But that's always the excuse, isn't it, greatness? As if breaking people is justified by the results. As if the ends excuse the means. Sparta thought the same thing, right up until there was no one left to break. Back to the present. A small museum stands in modern Sparta, dedicated to ancient history. Inside, glass cases display artifacts, bronze helmets, spear points, fragments of shields. But in the back, away from the main exhibits, there's a smaller room, quieter, less visited. It contains the things tourists don't want to see. Infant bones excavated from the base of Mount Taygetus. Hundreds of them. Carbon dated to the classical period. The unwanted. The imperfect. The discarded. Proof that apothecary wasn't myth. It was murder. A placard explains in clinical language, Spartan society practiced selective infanticide to maintain genetic standards. Genetic standards. As if that phrase makes it acceptable. As if language can sanitize atrocity. A school group visits. Teenagers. Bored. Scrolling phones. One girl stops at the display, stares at the tiny bones. "They were just babies," she whispers. Her teacher nods. Different times. Different values. "But they were just babies." The girl's voice breaks. Someone's babies. The teacher has no response. Because what do you say? That it was necessary, that it made Sparta strong. The bones don't care about strength. They just lie there. Silent witnesses to a truth we'd rather forget. Every empire that reaches for perfection leaves a trail of broken children behind it. And we keep doing it, generation after generation. Different methods, same cruelty, different names, same graves. The girl takes a picture of the display, posts it online with a caption, "This is what greatness costs. Never forget." It gets 17 likes, 3 comments, then disappears into the feed. Forgotten by tomorrow, because that's how it works. We remember the glory, forget the cost, worship the strength, ignore the screams. That night, in a small house near the museum, an old woman, great-great-great-granddaughter of Helots, sits at her kitchen table. She's 93, the last generation with living memory of elders who remembered the stories. A journalist visits her, young, eager, writing a piece about Sparta's legacy. "What do you want people to know?" he asks. She's quiet for a long time. Then, that it wasn't glorious, that it wasn't noble, that every brick in Sparta's walls was mortared with children's tears. She grips the table. And that we're still doing it. Different cities, different methods, but the same belief that breaking people makes them strong. Do you think we'll ever learn? No. Her voice is certain. Because learning means admitting we were wrong, and humans hate that more than they hate suffering. The journalist closes his notebook. That's a depressing conclusion. It's an honest one. She walks to the window. But maybe if enough people know the truth, really know it, feel it, maybe they'll choose differently. You believe that I have to. She turns back to him. Because if I don't believe humans can change, then Sparta won. Even in death, even in ruins, they win. The journalist leaves, writes his article. It's published, shared, debated, then forgotten, like everything else. But in the comments buried beneath the arguments and the trolls, one person writes, "My great-grandmother was named Gorgo. Family legend says she was descended from Sparta. I never knew what that meant until now. I'm naming my daughter after her, so she remembers, so we don't forget." It's a small thing, insignificant maybe, but it's something. One name, one memory, one person choosing to remember. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's how you defeat Sparta's ghost. Not by tearing down the ruins, not by erasing the history, but by remembering the cost, by saying the names of the forgotten, by honoring the children who died for someone else's dream of perfection, by choosing every single day to value humanity over strength, compassion over discipline, love over duty. Because in the end, Sparta's real failure wasn't military defeat. It was believing that people are raw material for the state to mold, that children are weapons to be forged, that love is weakness to be eliminated. They were wrong. Love isn't weakness. It's the only thing that makes strength worth having. And every time we forget that, every time we sacrifice human dignity for efficiency, brutality for results, cruelty for greatness, we rebuild Sparta, one broken child at a time. The ruins don't weep. But maybe we should. For every Leonidas who forgot his mother's face, every Gorgo who counted days until goodbye, every Siniska who jumped rather than surrender her child, every unnamed infant on the cliffs, every boy who survived the agoge but lost himself in the process. Their names are mostly forgotten, their stories mostly lost, but their warning remains: be careful what you worship. Be careful what you call strength. Because the line between discipline and trauma, between toughness and cruelty, between excellence and inhumanity, that line is thinner than you think. And once you cross it, there's no going back. Only forward, into the darkness, where the ghosts wait, still counting, still remembering, still whispering. We were children once, before they made us weapons, before they called it glory, before they told us love was weakness. We were children. Remember that. Remember us. Don't let it happen again. The screen fades to black. One final image appears. A child's wooden shield, cracked, faded, the lambda barely visible. Beneath it, text, "In memory of the children of Sparta and every child since sacrificed on the altar of someone else's vision of perfection." Silence. Then, if you believe their names should be remembered, share this story. And write a name in the comments, any name of someone who deserves to be more than a weapon. The video ends, but the question remains, hanging in the air, waiting for an answer. Will we learn, or will we build Sparta again? The choice, as always, is ours.